Okay, before we get started, in Israel, we have two types of water collection systems. One is called a cistern, a bore, and one is called a well, which is a be'er. What's the difference between the two? A bore, a cistern, the mouth is very wide, and it collects the rainwater, a bore. And so if you have a bore, a cistern, it fills up during the winter, and slowly it dries out until it's totally dry, I guess somewhere the end of the summer. So the brothers, they took Joseph and they threw him into a bore, right? Not a be'er, into a cistern. So that way we know, and it was Rik and Bomaim. So we know that story happened after the summer. But then there's another water collection device. It's called a be'er. A be'er is a well. The mouth is usually very narrow, and you dig down, 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 and then water, subterranean water comes up, and you have a well. That's a well. It's called a be'er. You know what happens with the be'er is that you drink the water is a well, right? Then, I don't know if it's 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, but after a while, the water either gets salty or the water dries up. So one system is, okay, thank you very much, well, thank you for all your water, 10, 15 years, very nice, but now it's time for me to dig a new well. But there's another strategy. You know what that is? Dig deeper in the well. You know what happens when you dig deeper in the well? You find new water because there's more water in the ground. You know, let's say you're in a relationship with someone. You're married to this person, you're in a relationship with this person 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. After a while, it's a little bit salty. Maybe there's no water. So one strategy is, you know what? Okay, I got to dig a new well, find someone else. The other strategy is I dig deeper, deeper. And you know what happens? Water comes up. You know, in Israel, lockdowns and COVID and this, that, and the other, and you know what? Everyone can't wait, right? Why? They have to go to the mall. Why do you have to go to the mall? I have to go to the mall. Why do I have to go to the mall? I have to buy a pair of socks. I need to get iced coffee. You see, you know why I need to go to the mall? Because I forgot that all I need to do is to dig deeper. Because people are not cisterns, they're not borot. People are beirot. So we should bless each other that we should dig deeper and deeper and deeper inside ourselves, and then new water comes up, and new water comes up, and new water comes up. You know, as soon as it's going to be Christmas, look at this, today's the 24th, it's Erev. So I wish everyone a quick Erev Yontif on Christmas. You should know, I feel bad for the Christians. You know why? I mean, they got good presents, but Jesus, he left the world when he was 30 years old. That's the end of the story. You know what? Abraham Abraham doesn't get started until he's 75. Moshe leaves Egypt when he's 40, hangs out in the desert for 40 years. He didn't start leading the Jewish people till he's 80. Rabbi Akiva, 80, 40, and then 80. You see, all of our leaders, they're all old. You know what that means? That means they kept digging inside, digging inside, digging inside. You know what happens? I once learned from a very beautiful teacher. His name is Ram Das. He was a Buddhist teacher. He taught, you know what it means to be old? It means I can't start again. That means I dig inside, I can't find anything. And so no doubt that Corona is a big, big problem. Believe me, I run a travel agency. Believe me, it's a big problem. But you know what the blessing is? Is it gives me time to go inside, 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 inside. And you know what happens when you go inside? You find new water. Oh boy, new water. And here it is. I don't know, not everyone can see Anne. I know Anne for a couple of years already. Believe me now, Anne looks younger than she's ever looked before. It's new water, Anne. It's new water. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. And of course, this Parashat Vayigash, is an incredible Parashat because, right, we've all been waiting. We've all been waiting for Yosef to reveal himself, and how's it going to happen? And here we have, it's the most remarkable story. It's unbelievable. And here we go. And we're going to tell you an incredible story beside the story. But to understand what happens is Parashat Vayigash begins with Yehuda speaking, right? Vayigash of Yehuda, Yehuda comes to him, and now for 17 sentences, the 17 verses, it's the longest monologue in the whole Torah. For 17 verses, Yehuda goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And when you read this, you have to ask yourself, okay, what is Yehuda trying to do? What he's trying to do, he's trying to convince the viceroy that he should not take Binyamin as a slave. That's his objective. And you read through this, and I'm not convinced. If I was the viceroy, I would be convinced. Maybe there's something here that is convincing, but most of it's not. And we'll go through it very quickly. He says over here, and then I'm reading from, this is Genesis 44, sentence 18. Yehuda comes to him, he says, listen, I want to speak to you. Please don't get angry with me. Sentence 19. Yeah, you said to us, do we have a father? Do we have a brother? And we said, we do have a father and we do have a brother. Okay. And you told us to bring him down. So we brought him down. And we said he can't leave because if he leaves, the father's going to die. And that's basically what goes on and on and over. He keeps describing this relationship that Yaakov has with Binyamin, and he says, listen, if we told you that if you do this, it's just going to destroy our father. It's going to destroy our father. And not only that, it says, B'nafsho kshura b'nafsho, and the soul of Binyamin is connected to the soul of Jacob. They're connected, and look, you can't do this because this old man, this father Yaakov, his soul and Binyamin, they're connected, and they're so connected, and they have such a special relationship. You can't take him as a slave. So now let me ask you a question. I'm the vice royal of Egypt. What do I care? What do I care about some father? What do I care? I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. Then, okay. So then in sentence, then after this whole long, he goes on and on in sentence number 32, he says, listen, I want you to know also, I took personal responsibility, and I'm going to do, if I don't bring him back, it'll be a sin. I will sin against my father all the days. Once again, why should the vice president of Egypt care if Yaakov sins against his father? What does it matter? I don't understand. But he says, you know what? Then he makes a proposition in 33. Now listen, you know what? You want a slave? Take me instead. And then finally he sums it up in 34. How can I go back to my father? And the boy's not there. How can I do this? So if I was the vice president, I would say, you do it, you don't do it, what do I care? It's a big problem. So there were two answers. One answer is that Yehuda was being authentic. Instead of using political language or trying to reason with the viceroy, because there's nothing here really convincing, he was just being authentic. And there is an idea that things that come out of the heart go into the heart, and because he was being authentic, he was not trying so much to convince the viceroy, but he was just trying to show him, look, this is a very special case, and he's trying to show the emotion behind it. And maybe we can relate to this. The world we live in sometimes is a very callous place, and sometimes when people actually express the emotions behind it, then that might be convincing. That could definitely be one approach. Another approach is we need to go back for a second to chapter 44, the same chapter, but we need to go back, instead of sentence 18, we go back to sentence 17. And so, or sentence 16. Yehuda says, we have nothing to say. Man omar, man idaber, man istadak. There's nothing to say. He says, take us as slaves. You want to take Binyamin as slaves? Let's do a trade. Take us as slaves, send Binyamin back. And what does the vice president say? No, I can't do such a thing. Only the one that took the goblet. So now, I heard in the name of Rabbi Riskin, and I think it's true, that at this point, when the vice prime minister is so focused on Binyamin, take these 12. You have 12 slaves. I mean, it's an incredible find. Why are you so focused on this one? When Yehuda finally figured something out, what did Yehuda figure out? He figured out who the vice president really was. He figured out that it was Yosef. And if he had figured it out, then the rest of the story makes sense. How did he figure it out? Well, it's very simple how he figured it out. He keeps seeing that this person knows the order of the brothers, the birthright. He sees how he keeps favoring Binyamin. And we all know it's the same thing in the world of politics, in the world of business. People talk. What do you think? Yehuda just walked in this place. He had no idea who this person was. What? No one in Egypt knew who Yosef was. Everyone knew who Yosef was. Here's this. Who's this? Who does he come from a royal family? No, he doesn't come from a royal family. You know how it is. You sit at the khan, you sit at the pub, and you're drinking, next to your camels. Say, well, which royal caste does he belong to? No, he isn't. How did he come to power? Oh, because he answered dreams. Really? How did he do that? Oh, well, he came to the land of Canaan. Doesn't that make so much more sense that Yehuda found out something about him? Be that as it may, one way or the other, the Chamalevich points out in these 17 sentences, there's one word which is repeated 14 times. Does anyone want to guess what that word is?
Is it Avi or Achi?
Avi, 14 times. And this is a common tool that the Torah uses. It repeats a word over and over again. This whole long speech of 70 Psukim is all about the father. And if Yehuda had figured out that Yosef was really Yosef, it makes sense. Because it's all about the father in the end. And it's all about the connection that Yosef has to the father. Okay. That's point number one. Point number two, when we're focused on the story, we're very focused on the drama aspect of it. What are we focused on? When is Yosef going to finally reveal himself to the brothers? But we just have to be there's something very important about the story that we have to make sure that we understand. And that is, why does the Torah tell us this whole story? Why does Yosef do this? What is Yosef hoping is going to happen? Why does he do the whole thing and he sends it back and he gives them the money and then the goblet and this and the other and take Shimon first as a prisoner and then he wants to take Binyamin? Why is he doing this?
Looking to see if they changed.
That's right. He's doing all this is because he wants to give them an opportunity to demonstrate that they've changed. Last time around, Yehuda said, listen to these words. I can't, it breaks my heart just to mention the words. He says, what benefit do we get from killing him? Let's sell him. Can you imagine a reality where brothers sell brothers? It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. In the world we live in today, I'm sure it's the way also at your Pesach Seder, I'm sure, at our table, we have an empty chair. It's an empty chair for who? It's an empty chair for all those people that are enslaved today. They sell men, they sell women, they sell teenage girls, they sell kids. It's unbelievable that in the 21st century it's still going on. The brothers are still selling brothers, right? The very first story, we're kicked out in the Garden of Eden. What's the very first story? The very first story is the story of Cain and Abel. Two brothers can't get along. From the Torah's perspective, the entire history of humanity is about brothers that can't get along. It's very simple. So here we have this story is as much as about Yosef, it's about Yehuda. It's about Yehuda having an opportunity to take responsibility, and sure enough, the Midrash says at this moment he received the kingship, but that's really and it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, it's a beautiful thing when we take responsibility for our brothers. It's a beautiful thing. And it's a beautiful thing. We live in a world, especially with COVID and Corona, where, when someone knocks on the door, what do? We hide. What's going on? It used to be, I don't know when they stopped, but in the 50s, the 60s, 70s, someone knocked on the door. Wait, let's take out the cookies. We got the Sara Lee cookies. We've been saving for the guests. Let's take them out. Let's bring them in. Today, people knock on the door. They say, what? Who's bothering me? I heard a beautiful thing. If you walk around with a hammer, then everything looks like a nail. But if you walk around with a candle, i.e. Hanukkah, then everything looks like something that needs to be lit up, you know? And why did God create the Jewish people? You know, so that we would go around and light up the world, you know? And like people, you know, it's like, so instead of running away from people, let's bless each other. We have the strength to say hello to people. It's unbelievable. Saying hello to people, getting involved in other people's lives, it's unbelievable. And so here, and taking responsibility, caring. This is what happens with Yehuda. He takes responsibility, and because of that, he becomes the leader of the Jewish people. And you know, as holy as Yosef was, right? Yosef, you know, he doesn't give in to temptation with Mrs. Robinson, right? With Mrs. Potiphar. He knows how to bring up Ephraim and Manasseh. Ephraim and Manasseh, they become like tribes. You know, he knows how to bring up boys in Egypt. So he knows how to do that. He's like, you know, he was like big Chabad in Mitzrayim. And so then you have Yehuda. And Yehuda sells his son, sells his brother. Then, you know, he marries a Canaanite woman. And then he really lied to Tamar, his daughter-in-law. He said, yeah, okay, just wait, I'll marry you off. But he wasn't going to do that because he already lost 2 sons by her. And then, you know, he's on a business trip and he sees a prostitute. He says, okay, why not? It's really not such a good resume and here he is, right? Here he is. He actually marries Tamar, and Tamar has twins. And one of them is called Zerach, the other one is called Peretz. And Peretz is the great-great-grandfather of Mashiach, of David HaMelech. You know, if I had to choose a Messiah, which Messiah would I choose? Hey, Brother Jay, right? Because Brother Jay was born with nothing, no sex. He left the world a virgin. He's like a tzaddik, right? Then you have our Mashiach, Yehuda and Tamar and prostitution. That's on one side. The other side, you have Ruth. Ruth comes from Moabites. The Moabites are a process of incest. It's not so good. And then King David, oy vey. So the difference is that our Mashiach says, yeah, you know what? I know about the lowliness of humanity. I know about the depravity of humanity. I know about the mistakes that human beings can make. But you know what? I've been there and I've gotten out. I know how to get out. So I can help you get out also. You know, there's a beautiful story, and that is a man falls into a pit, can't get out. So a doctor comes by and says, doctor, help me out of the pit. The doctor writes him out a prescription, throws it in. Okay. A religious person walks by. He says, oh, please help me. I'm in the pit. I got to get out. He says, not a problem. He writes him out a prayer. He throws it in. Okay, he's in the pit. And then his friend comes by and he says, oh, Yankele, help me. He says, not a problem. He jumps in the pit. He says, what'd you do? Why'd you jump in the pit? Now we're both in the pit. He says, it's true. We're both in the pit. But you know what? I've been here before. And I know the way out. That's our Mashiach. That's Yehuda. I'm not perfect. I've made terrible mistakes. I sold my own brother. But I know how to do better, and I will do better, and I take responsibility. So I'm just going to end with one story, which is, I'll tell you the story, but I'm begging you to tell this story over. Really, it's an unbelievable story. This story is told by the Rebbe of Zanz, and the Rebbe of Zanz, he would get a haircut like once a month, And in order to cut his hair, there were like 2 or 3 barbers in Zans. And Zans wasn't a big city. And in order to cut his hair beforehand, they went to mikveh, they apologized to their families, they gave tzedakah, and then they'd come in and they would lay out their the comb and the scissors, and they put their hands on his head. And if there was not exactly 100%, the way they acted towards their wives, their children, so it would really burn the Zanzer because he had such developed himself that, no, you can't cut my hair this month. Anyway, one month, this happened with all 3 of the barbers in Zans. Each one, they had to do tshuva. So the Zanzer Rebbe said, listen, go out to the street. Today's the market day. Maybe you'll find someone that cuts hair. So sure enough, they go to the marketplace, and there's one man at the end of the marketplace. He himself is not so well kept, and he has a little stand, the street barber. He's cutting people's, he has a little chair, he's cutting people's hair. Okay, so they say, what can you do? You don't look so good, but come. Anyway, they clean him up a little bit, they give him a coat, and they come in, he puts down his coat, he puts down the comb, he puts down the scissors, and he puts his hand on the Zanzer Rebbe's head, and the Zanzer Rebbe says, okay, fine, you can cut my hair. So he cuts his hair, they give him a few rubles, he leaves. So the Hasidim was so interested to know, how can it be? How can it be this person? There's got to be a story here that he can cut the hair of the Zanzer Rebbe. So they take him out to the little inn, and they have a little, a pint of this, a little this, and this and the other. And so after a while, he says, tell us, what's your story? He says, I'll tell you what my story is. He says, I'm a traveling barber. I don't have anything really. I cut hair at marketplace. That's what it is. I make a few coins. He says, one time I came to a marketplace. It was a big tumult. There's a big thing going on. He said, what's going on? You see that Jew over there? That Jew, he stole a horse. And because of that, the punishment is he has to be whipped 100 times. And the truth is, he didn't steal a horse, just this other person, he wants to take away the person's business. So the barber said, you know what? I know what I need to do. He went in front of everyone. He said, you know what? This Jew did not steal a horse. I stole the horse. So they tied him up and they whipped him. He was almost dead. And so he gets up from his little stool with the Hasidim. He takes off his shirt. You can see his back is full of the marks. So the Zanzer Rebbe said, there's 2 kinds of tzaddikim. One kind of tzaddik is like Yosef, that never makes a mistake. And the other kind of tzaddik says, you know what? Take me instead. And that's what Yehuda does in this parsha. He says, take me instead. And what do parents say? Take me instead. And you know what the Israeli soldiers say? They say, take me instead. So we're living in historic times. Historic times. So I'm going to wish everyone a Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos.